With me today, I've got State Senator Jim Kyle. Jim, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
And tell us a little bit about you. How long have you lived in Memphis, et cetera, et cetera?
I grew up in the community of Capable,
Okay.
which was when I grew up, was closer to Mississippi than it was to Memphis.
Yeah.
But by the time we moved away from there, we were closer to Memphis than we were to Mississippi because of the growth of the city. Literally, when the Highway 78 was expanded from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, they went through our living room.
Oh.
And but fortunately for me, I'd gotten out of high school and was in college at that time. And I went to Arkansas State University over in Jonesboro, and then went to law school at the University of Memphis. Have been a practicing attorney since 1976. I was elected to the Senate in 1983.
Okay, now why did you want to be a state senator? Why did you initially run for the Senate, or you run for state?
State Senate is the only thing I have ever run for in my entire life.
All right. Why did you want to do that?
I'm talking about homeroom monitor. I'm talking about student council. Never.
I've never run for election. First election. You slam dunk. You won the election.
Well, actually, in 1980, I ran and lost.
Okay, so you lost the first one. Okay.
But and how that got into, I had been around politics, around student government, doing those kind of things when I was in college, and found the 79 city elections interesting to be out to. I was a young man. It was always nice to be able to go to these events and meet people. And then I kept talking about the incumbent senator. My brother and I were living in a little house over near the National Cemetery, and that my parents had bought on the GI Bill when they got married in 1949. And I kept complaining. I said, "One day somebody ought to run against this guy. Somebody this and that." And finally, one morning, this is the truth.
Who was it you?
My brother. Ed Gillick.
Ed
Gillick had been senator for 28 years, and I had, and I didn't think Ed was doing such a great job, and I kept talking about it and talking about it. And finally, one day, my brother, as he's getting dressed, said, "This is the deal. You either run against him or quit talking about it."
Yeah.
And that with that challenge of my brother challenging me, I said, "Okay, I'm going to run." And so that afternoon, I mimeographed me some papers that said a little bit about Jim Kyle, and started going door to door campaigning. I started out with 2 votes, my vote and his was soft.
Yeah.
But everyone said we couldn't win, but we almost did. And when Ed resigned from the Senate and they had a special election, I was elected.
That's great.
In 1983 in June. I'm the only state senator or elected official in the legislature who was ever elected on a Friday.
Okay.
Lamar Alexander set that election as far off as he could. So that Jim Ehlers, who you may recall, the late Jim Ehlers was a fine man. He was the interim senator, and Pete Sisson and he had gotten together and they put that together. But I've been in the Senate since then. I've served on virtually, in that period of time, virtually every committee, and whatever the case may be. I have accumulated a great deal of interest and knowledge about our state budget and how the budget works. Have been working with, when A.C. Wharton was our county mayor, I worked with him very closely because, as you know, county government and state government are really intertwined.
Very much so.
Municipal government is not nearly as intertwined as county government. So we worked very much on the issues concerning the med and other things like that. And I became the Democratic leader for the Senate 8 years ago, elected by my colleagues, to which is as high an honor as you can have, is to have the people
for your peers,
your peers to choose you as the person who's going to be the leader. And that caused me to be Phil Bredesen's floor leader for 6 years, and which meant I handled and managed all the legislation, was the spokesman on the floor for the governor, did those types of things. So I feel like I have a real firm base that I'd like to continue with being in the Senate, and I'm campaigning.
What is your Senate district? Who can vote for you?
It's very interesting. I'll start at the first on the east, and I'll finish where we finished. There's a lot of great things in Memphis. You might think all of Memphis is in the 30th district after I tell you this. If you start down where the Memphis University School and the Hutchinson School for Girls are, and go north into River Oaks, up by through Christian Brothers High School, around to where Baptist East Hospital is, and then go up into Frazier and Raleigh.
Oh my gosh!
Where we have the Nike plant, and then you swing down into some very significant and older communities to Smoky City and Klondike communities, down to St. Jude, and then heading south, but not going past 3rd Street, all the way down to South Parkway. including the UT Medical School and right up on the edge of Lemoyne-Owen College. That is the new 30th Senatorial District.
Wow,
And
what a huge, I mean, campaigning in that district is very tough.
well, it is, but I'm very fortunate in that I have represented the communities of Berkeley, Highland Heights, Fraser, and Raleigh for almost 30 years, and those remain intact in my district. Essentially, we had to grow. That's why I'm in this situation, being in an election with another elected senator, is because the city of Memphis depopulated.
Right.
And while the state population got bigger, therefore we had to have a bigger land
So you
area.
had to increase your
I'm now at 195,000 people.
Okay.
And to get 195,000 people, you've got to go a third of Memphis.
Got to go a third of Memphis, that's right.
to get it done.
What have been, in your memory, as long as you've been in the Senate, and
Right.
as a matter of fact, my son Shay served with you for a little while.
He did. He did a great job as an interim senator.
But what are the highlights? What are the fun things that you can remember? What are the accomplishments that you're most gratified that you spent all of this time doing? I mean, and your law practice suffered for you being there so much time, and you've given a lot of yourself. What accomplishments do you consider your most prized?
Well, I will tell you this. First of all, I think the greatest thing I've enjoyed the most is the camaraderie with people of like minds,
Right.
and quite frankly, people who I don't agree with, but people who are interested in public service and from different parts of the state. That has been very interesting. I mean, serving with John Wilder for many, many years was a very interesting and unique experience. Insofar as accomplishments are concerned, you want to be able to look back and say, but for me, was this going to happen? In the Bredesen administration, I was able to manage the legislation that funded the expansion of pre-K, which I'm very pleased for.
That's education, you know, is one of everybody, should be one of everybody's priorities. So you did help expand that.
I did. I funded it. I passed the revenue measure that funded it on a 17-16 vote. When I first came to the legislature, I was one of the senators who voted to make Martin Luther King Day a holiday, a state holiday.
Really?
It was not a state holiday.
I remember when it was.
When
Yeah.
I came to the legislature, I feel good about knowing that I was sitting at that desk doing that at that time. I've had many opportunities to do things for Memphis. The Regional Medical Center was in dire.
The regional med, the med was on real bad straits.
It was in very bad financial condition, and I was able to help with A.C. Wharton's convince state government to step in and provide some much needed capital to try to get us past and help us redefine health care, which with the med, how it fit into all of that in regards to our community. I would say those types of things. There's a road that wouldn't have been built out there at Austin Peay Highway, but for the fact that Lamar Alexander needed my vote on the gasoline tax of 1985.
Okay.
And therefore that Austin Peay Highway was expanded and a much safer road for people out there to this day. Something that took 15, 20
I
years
use
to
that
get
road
built.
all the time. So thank you.
Before that road was built, when people during rush hour, people would back up from Stage Road all the way back up onto the ramp and I-40. Therefore, it was very dangerous.
Yeah.
It was very dangerous because we had to build a way for that to occur. I have been very pleased with the reforms we've made in public education in the last few years. I was the sponsor of all of Governor Bredesen's Race to the Top bills and the spokesman on all those issues. We've heard a lot recently about the achievement school districts, and those are up in my district where they're redoing some of our schools. Well, I sponsored the bill that helped pass the achievement school districts, and we try to add some accountability and new management techniques for our schools. And so I feel good about those things. And but what I'm looking forward to in this next term.
When you're elected again,
Yes.
what future do you see? I mean, everybody wants to know the future. They want hope for the future. What do you bring to that?
Well, you know, Governor Haslam is my fifth governor. And I started with Lamar Alexander, and then I had Ned McWhirter, and then I had Don Sundquist, and then I had Phil Bredesen, and now I have Bill Haslam. And they've all been different. all having an idea of wanting to make our state better, all having a little bit different way of looking what made things. What is
Right.
better? Better is in the eye of the beholder. What I'd like to work on and intend on working on, which we started this year, is the gradual removal of the sales tax off of food.
Okay.
You may find it interesting that if you if you're watching this program and you own horses or you own cows and you buy them feed, you don't pay tax on that.
Oh, there's no tax on
Animal food,
I
but there
had
is
no idea.
but there is tax on
human food.
On human food. There's something wrong with that picture. And everyone eats food. Everyone goes to the grocery store. And to me, we've been able to, by continuing to push and push and push, we've been able to get the government's attention and this governor's attention. A very small amount was reduced this year. I believe we can do more. We are sitting on almost $500 million in unused revenue,
Oh, okay.
where we have grown.
Mm-hmm.
Our sales tax revenues have grown in excess of what our budget is.
Mm-hmm.
My position is either we should take those funds and reduce the tax off of food by as many as a penny or a penny and a half, or we ought to give the money back to the taxpayer.
So some way utilize those funds that have just built up.
That
and
have built up because the Tennessee, as you know, George, is a sales tax based state. We don't
Right.
have an income tax.
No income tax.
That means when the economy goes south, we're the first people to feel it because
Right.
sales stop. And that's what
People
happens to
quit
us.
buying.
They quit
Yeah,
buying.
yeah.
They quit buying. But when the economy starts to rebound, we're the first state to get well
Okay.
because people start buying again. We have had 19 consecutive months of positive growth. There were times in the Brothers administration in which we had negative growth over periods. We had a year of negative growth,
Right.
which is a pretty rough situation. We had to make some tough choices. But I'm just saying to you, with the economy getting better, we need to put food in people's hands and not be taxing it. It's just wrong to do so, and that is my #1 goal when I go back this year.
So you would have that initiative. You would lobby your all of your fellow senators and the House to come up with something like that.
But what I can do that most people do not able to, I have a working knowledge of the budget to show how it can be
So
done.
you know where everything is,
I do. I was
and you're not starting from ground zero.
I was vice chairman of the finance committee for
Okay.
many years. I handled every budget of Phil Brotherson's.
Okay.
I was the sponsor and presented every budget. So I believe what I can do is show solutions.
Right.
A lot of people can be for a lot of these things, but you've got to be able to
We've got to be able to implement your ideas
implement
and
your
know
ideas.
how to implement
and
your
implement them in such a way as not to alienate everyone else.
ideas. Right.
That's how
That is a trick.
That is a trick, but when you are the elected leader of your colleagues, it gives you a platform to be able to start, and that is the key distinction between myself and other candidates running this time is the fact that I have been in leadership, I am in leadership, and that gives me a platform to go forward.
Now, I would like for you to be able to, we've had this conversation, and the electorate, the voters, have been watching us talk about
Right.
each. But I want you to have just a minute to, tell them what the voters, whatever you'd like. Be sure and ask for the vote.
right.
I think you taught me that. Always ask for the vote. So we want you to be able to just ask the voters for the vote.
Well, thank you. And first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Flynn for giving me an opportunity to be here today and to express my request of you that you vote in the upcoming election. And for those of you in the 30th Senatorial District, that you vote for Jim Kyle. I have been the senator from Memphis for the last 30 years. I have worked hard to fight crime, fight gang violence, worked in areas of health care, and have been a leader in Nashville. I have been fighting for Memphis, will continue to fight for Memphis, to continue to fight for you. It's what makes this job what it is.
Jim Kyle, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And good luck in the election. Go get them.
Well, we're going after them.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And you've been watching Win with Flynn. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.